right, so today we're going to be doing a deep dive into something pretty wild.
Yeah.
It's Sweden's decision to switch from driving on the left side of the road to the right side overnight back in 1967.
Yeah. I mean, orchestrated chaos is what comes to mind.
Total pandemonium.
Yeah. I mean, like, I can't even imagine.
We're talking like buses crashing into parties,
Yeah.
people driving in circles. It's a miracle that anyone survived this. But here's the interesting thing. This crazy event is actually a metaphor for breaking out of creative ruts, at least according to poetry slam expert Stephen Pinkwart. And his article that we're looking at today, it's called How Sweden Managed to Annoy Its Inhabitants.
Oh, interesting.
And it really made me think about, what are the ways that we can sort of shake things up in our own lives?
Yeah.
And hopefully it'll do the same for you.
I love how Pinkwart takes this historical event, which, most people would look at and just be like, oh my gosh, that's a logistical nightmare. But he turns it into this, really powerful metaphor for creative liberation. It's like the idea that a little bit of disruption can be the catalyst for innovation.
Right. And it's like a forced disruption in this case, right?
Exactly.
It wasn't like, hey, everybody, let's think about doing this. It was like, no, we're doing this.
Okay.
So let's unpack this Swedish switcheroo, IKOA, which is officially known as Dagen H. And they literally changed over 360,000 road signs overnight. I mean, that's insane.
That's a commitment.
Talk about commitment to chaos.
To a bit of chaos.
Right.
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling. But it's important to remember that Sweden was actually following the British model of driving on the left for decades, even though they had left-hand drive cars.
The trip makes no sense.
It was clearly impractical.
Yeah.
But I think it just goes to show how deeply ingrained certain habits can become.
Right. And that's where I think Pinkwart's analogy comes in, right?
Yeah.
He's arguing that we get stuck in creative ruts because we're too afraid to shake things up, to disrupt our own status quo. We're like clinging to the left side of the road, even when it makes no sense. Exactly. And he uses these like hilarious, almost unbelievable anecdotes from Dagen H to drive this point home. Like the bus driver who accidentally drove into a family's driveway during their birthday party.
Oh, my.
Talk about an unexpected guest.
Oh, no.
Right.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
Or the poor guy on a moped, just circling endlessly on a roundabout, completely lost. It sounds like something out of a slapstick comedy.
It does.
But it also really highlights the disorientation and confusion that can come with any major change.
Absolutely. And yet, despite all the initial chaos, there's a surprising outcome. Accident rates actually went down after the switch.
Wow.
Yeah, people were forced to pay more attention, to be more aware of their surroundings. Like that jolt of adrenaline woke everyone up and made them better drivers.
Right. And that's a brilliant analogy for what Pinkwart's advocating for in Poetry Slam.
I know.
Right. It's essentially like, look, sometimes you need to shock your audience, make them sit up and pay attention. You need to create your own Dagen H on stage.
Yeah. And he doesn't shy away from using bold, even outrageous language and imagery to achieve that effect. Like,
Right.
He talks about comparing a heart to a chainsaw.
Yeah.
Or likening someone's life to bad porn.
Right.
Pretty intense.
It's definitely not for the faint of heart. But his point is that you need to break free from those predictable, safe metaphors and really push the boundaries of what's considered acceptable.
He's challenging poets to embrace risk, to be bolder, to create those like WTF moments that will stick in the audience's mind long after the performance is over.
Yeah. So what are some of his key strategies for achieving this level of audacious creativity?
Well, first and foremost, he emphasizes the importance of stepping outside your comfort zone. Just like Sweden completely overhauled their driving habits overnight, he wants poets to be willing to write things that truly surprise them, to explore uncomfortable themes, to use language they wouldn't normally use.
And this is where he introduces his concept of like Dagen H strategies for becoming a slam god.
I love that.
It's so catchy.
It's so catchy, right?
So what exactly does that entail?
Okay, so he breaks it down into 3 key elements: ditching your comfort zone, incorporating unexpected elements, and writing with high energy.
Okay.
He wants your poems to feel like they're powered by 600 volts of electricity, not a gentle flute melody.
So it's not just about being shocking for the sake of being shocking. It's about injecting this like raw, visceral energy into your work that grabs the audience's attention.
And
doesn't let go.
Exactly. Think of it like this. A poem about heartbreak, written in a traditional flowery style, might evoke a certain level of empathy. But a poem that compares heartbreak to being ripped apart by a chainsaw,
Yeah.
That's going to create a visceral reaction, a sense of shock and awe that will stay with the audience long after the performance is over.
And he's not just talking about using edgy metaphors either. He also advocates for incorporating unexpected elements into your poems, like shifting perspectives or introducing completely absurd scenarios.
Yeah, he gives the example of a feminist slam poem written from the perspective of a cockroach.
Oh, wow.
Talk about an unconventional take on gender politics.
That's brilliant.
It's brilliant.
It completely subverts expectations and forces the audience to reevaluate their assumptions. And I love how he uses humor to deliver these thought-provoking messages.
He definitely doesn't shy away from humor that hits below the belt, as he puts it. But it's always in service of a larger point. He's using humor to challenge societal norms, to expose hypocrisy, to make people think differently about the world around them.
Yeah, and he even suggests incorporating these WTF moments, right? Things that completely catch the audience off guard and leave them wondering, what just happened?
Like a poem about accidentally blowing up the world because someone messed up a unit of measurement.
Right.
It's absurd. It's hilarious. But it also makes you think about the potential consequences of even the smallest mistakes. And that's what makes Pinkwart's work so compelling. He manages to blend humor, social commentary, and raw emotion in a way that is both entertaining and thought-provoking.
It's like he's taking a sledgehammer to our preconceived notions of what poetry should be, but he's doing it with a mischievous grin on his face.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what makes him so effective. He's not afraid to offend, to provoke, to challenge the status quo, but he's also incredibly skilled at crafting poems that are both technical, brilliant, and emotionally resonant.
He's like a master chef who can whip up a gourmet meal that looks like a work of art,
Yeah.
but also tastes like a flavor explosion in your mouth.
Exactly. He understands that poetry is not just about pretty words on a page. It's about connecting with an audience on a visceral level, making them feel something, making them think, making them question their own assumptions.
And he provides concrete tools and strategies to help poets achieve this level of audacious creativity. He even recommends his book Poetry Master as a guide to crafting poems that truly pack a punch.
He describes it as a no-nonsense guide to writing texts that will blow your audience out of their seats.
Right.
And honestly, after diving into this article, I'm kind of tempted to check it out myself. It sounds really interesting.
Me too.
Yeah.
I'm really curious to see how he lays out these strategies in a more practical way.
Yeah. And how he applies it to different types of poems and different themes and stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go.
All right, so I guess the question is, are we ready to create our own Dagon H moments?
I think so.
Let's do it.
Let's shake things up.
Let's shake things up.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting how he draws this parallel between the success of Dagon H and this potential for positive change through creative disruption.
Right.
Like, even though things might seem chaotic and confusing at first, ultimately, embracing that disruption can lead to a better outcome.
So it's not just about throwing a bunch of random shocking elements into a poem just for shock value.
No, not at all. It's about calculated chaos, as he calls it.
Okay.
He emphasizes that there's a difference between being provocative and being gratuitous.
Right.
The goal isn't to offend or alienate your audience, but rather to shake them out of their complacency, to make them think differently about the subject matter.
But how do you strike that balance? Where's the line between being bold and being offensive? How can you be sure you're not pushing too far and turning people off completely?
That's a great question, and it's something that I think every artist has to grapple with, Pinkwart doesn't offer any easy answers, but he does provide some insightful guidelines. He talks about the importance of being authentic,
Okay.
of writing from a place of genuine passion and conviction. If you're truly invested in the message you're trying to convey, the audience will sense that, even if the language you're using is unconventional or even shocking.
So it's about being true to yourself,
Yeah,
even if it means ruffling a few feathers along the way.
precisely. It's about having the courage to express your unique voice, even if it doesn't fit neatly into pre-existing categories or expectations.
Right.
Pinkwart encourages poets to embrace their individuality, to find their own Dagon H moments. That will make their work stand out from the crowd.
I think this whole concept of Dagon H for your writing
Yeah.
is so powerful because it applies to so much more than just poetry slam. It's relevant to any creative endeavor, whether you're a writer, a musician, a painter,
Hmm.
or even an entrepreneur.
Absolutely. It's about being willing to take risks, to experiment, to push beyond your comfort zone and see what happens. It's about embracing the unknown and trusting that even if things get messy and chaotic, something beautiful and unexpected might emerge from that chaos.
I think a lot of people, myself included, struggle with this fear of failure. This idea that if we don't stick to what's safe and familiar, we're going to mess things up irrevocably.
Right, but that's precisely the kind of thinking that Pink Word is challenging.
Yeah.
He's saying, look, failure's inevitable. Embrace it. Learn from it. Don't let it paralyze you. He wants poets to be fearless, to be willing to put themselves out there, even if it means falling flat on their faces sometimes, you
Yeah.
know. It's like giving us permission to be messy, to be imperfect, to make mistakes and learn from them. And that's incredibly liberating, especially in a world that often values perfection and conformity above all else.
So instead of asking ourselves, what if I fail? We should be asking, what if I succeed?
Exactly.
What if I break free from my self-imposed limitations and create something truly unique and powerful?
Yes.
I think Pinkward's whole philosophy is incredibly empowering. It's about taking ownership of our creative journeys and not being afraid to shake things up, to create our own Dag and H moments that will redefine who we are as artists and individuals.
And remember, Sweden's success with Dag and H proves that even the most radical changes can be implemented successfully if there's a clear vision, careful planning, and a willingness to embrace the initial chaos.
So maybe the key takeaway here is that sometimes the most unexpected detours can lead to the most rewarding destinations.
It's all about perspective. What seems chaotic and disruptive at first can ultimately lead to positive change. It's about trusting the process and being open to the possibilities that emerge when we dare to step outside the box.
So if you're feeling stuck, in a creative rut,
Yeah.
or just looking for a way to inject some energy and excitement into your life, Pinkward's Dag and H philosophy is definitely worth exploring.
Yeah, I mean, he really reminds us that a little bit of calculated chaos can be the catalyst for incredible creativity and positive change,
Yeah.
Yeah. It's about embracing the unexpected.
Yeah.
And pushing ourselves beyond our perceived limitations.
And if you're ready to dive deeper into Pinkward's methods for unleashing your inner poetry slam champion, his book, Poetry Master Poesy Craft in 7 Taganen, is the perfect place to start.
Yeah, it's a practical guide packed with tips and techniques for writing poems that are bold and memorable and anything but boring.
All right, deep divers, that's a wrap for today. We hope this deep dive has inspired you to embrace a little Dag and H in your own lives.
Just remember, sometimes the most unexpected detours can lead to the most rewarding destinations.
Stay creative. And until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.